You guys, we're back. It's very interesting that I couldn't keep myself away from video, considering last week I told you all the reasons I wasn't comfortable on video. Spoiler alert, actually, when I was editing last week's podcast episode, I said you sound just as crazy. The sound wasn't even better. I also told you in last week's podcast episode that I probably was planning to hold the mic. I'm holding the mic. Can you see my nails? So hopefully the sound will be way better than when it's just on my hoodie because I think that me wearing a hoodie during the podcast is just a thing. Another thing this week because I'm just getting crazy, wookie, spooky, wonky. I do not have my emotional support lip gloss. I know, crazy, right? I know. What I do have are my cards with nothing on them. That's hiding the phone that actually has the notes. We all know at some point, probably after the intro, the cards will go down because I can't sit up here and hold the phone, hold the cards, hold the mic. Yeah. Why did I do that? You weirdo. Hold the cards and hold the mic, hold everything else. So as I get more comfortable on our comfy green couch that I love my little setup on, I will probably put the cards down. Also, let me just say, I will get a camera eventually. If you have suggestions for a camera, please let me know because now I don't even know what camera I want to buy. I'm just I'm just here. And then the lights that I had, those don't work either. Well, they work. Let me not say that. That is a misrepresentation of what's happening. They do not work the way I would like them to work, but they actually work. They're not giving what they need to give. Also, I talked about the reason I don't like being on camera is because of the haircut. We just gonna have to deal with me looking like a little boy. Okay, we are just going to have to deal with me looking like a young man, me and you, because I did the test shot for the couch to make sure that I was in frame. And lo and freaking behold, you can't even see my curls. You still can't see my curls. I just look like I have a teeny weeny afro, and that's what I have. I will say the back is growing into the point where I think I probably can get braids if I go to a skilled hair braider. But until then, you're going to have to deal with the afro. I'm going to have to deal with the afro. We'll all be okay. And if you've been listening to the podcast or watching the episodes on video, you know what I'm about to do. I am about to get up and check to see if we are recording. And that is why I need a real camera because on the real camera, I'll be able to see the light. But on the iPad, we're just out here with a hope and a dream. Although we'll be edited out, I just want you guys to know that's what I'm about to do. Also, I'm hella comfortable, so I hate that I have to get up, but I'm about to get up. So I'm not in the same spot. We know why I'm not in the same spot. I couldn't even get myself back in the same spot. I hope that it looks right on camera and I didn't do all that and now I've just messed myself up. But what I will say is, of course, I was recording. Of course, you were recording. You check it 100 times before you sit down. But you know me, I don't know. I don't know. I just got to check it. Just got to do what I got to do. But none of that was in my notes. But if you're new here, that may seem crazy to you. But if you're not new, you know nothing's ever in my notes. My notes are in my notes and my tangents are not. And we all just kind of keep up that way. How I was going to start was by saying, don't trick yourself out of a spot by setting limits that do not exist. And this came to my mind in the most random way possible this morning. As you know, most of the time I write notes in between the episodes so that I kind of have a cadence. And we all know that I'm trying to get my video episodes to be a little bit longer. But now, after further thought, why am I trying to force something? Maybe I stopped doing that. But that was the plan. So I write notes, and we all know that I was trying to get my videos to be a little bit longer. And I was sitting in the car this morning randomly adding to the notes that were already there. So this wasn't even the intro at the beginning of the week. But I'm sitting in my car and I'm adjusting my heat. And it made me think at one point when I got the car that I'm currently in, when it was newer, me and my cousin were in the car, and the heat max on my previous car, which was the same make, not the same model, so by the same company, was I believe like 84, 85 degrees. So that was the max on that car. That's just where the heat went. If you turn the heat all the way up, that's where it went. So when I got this car or this SUV, I assumed that because it was the same model car that the same max would apply across cars. Like, okay, it must be the same thing. So when I would turn my heat up, I would only turn it up to 85. Like I never tried to go past 85. Me and my cousin were sitting in the car one day and I was like, oh, this car really drives me crazy. Like this is a newer car. You would think that the heat would be better than the last car, but these new cars, blah, 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 blah. So she goes, your heat only goes up to 85. I'm like, yeah, that's my heat max. She goes, oh, are you sure? I'm like, why are you asking? Like, yeah, that was my max. That was the max in my last car. I'm pretty sure it's the max in this car. And she's like, oh, I have the same model car too, but my max is 90. Are you sure your max is 85? I'm like, well, you know what? I never actually tried to go past 85. So I went and adjusted the heat, turned it up, and wouldn't you freaking know it, the max was 90. So I was sitting in my car cold and raggedy for no reason. Like just lukewarm on a cold ass day, just lukewarm, hoping for the best. So I think that applies to life. I think a lot of the times we look at previous situations or what other people have done or what we have done and just decide that that is our limit and never test it to see if we can do better, to see if we can go further, to just try. So if I say nothing else during this episode, which we know I'm going to say a lot of something else during this episode, but if I don't, I'm just saying, do not put limits on yourself for no reason. Sometimes you just have to go beyond your comfort zone, beyond what you're used to, and beyond what you think you know, because you do not know everything. And I was only going to have that as my intro because I want to keep my intro short. But you guys know I went on a tangent fresh out of the box. Fresh out of the Cracker Jack box, I went on a freaking tangent. So let me go ahead and get this housekeeping out of the way so I can put these cards down and we can really get into some things. Welcome to A Chat with Shay, episode Factory Reset. Come in, sit back, relax, let's chat. Woo! Okay. I don't know why I feel like the intro has to be all, I don't know, because I'm never serious. I'm never actually being serious. That's another thing when I do the editing too. One thing about me is I am going to crack myself up. Sometimes it's a little cringy when I'm going back because I'm like, girl, what are you laughing at? Nothing was ever that funny. But to me, just in between these takes and the amount of times that you guys see me laugh on camera is not always the amount of times that I've laughed. Sometimes there are more times that I'm laughing. Like I am just ha ha he he chuckling. Like, girl, not you a clown. I say that every episode. Not you a clown. I also say that in text, which, girl, you really should name this episode tangent because you're on another tangent. The phone down in between my legs. So y'all know I'm not reading my notes. What I was going to say in my tangent is that's another thing that drives me crazy when I think about texting or communicating with a new boo is they don't know my sense of humor yet. So I know they be taking things the wrong way, but meanwhile, on the other end of the phone, I'm a ha ha a he he, which is crazy because my homegirls get it fresh out the box, and it's really given. I don't know, like I don't know. What I will say, a joke that you might not find funny, but I find funny, is in a conversation earlier, we were talking about like, oh, don't you want a man to give you his last name? So here I am, Miss, oh, I'm dating. Oh, Miss, I'm trying a new thing. Miss, I'm trying to be the lover girl. Y'all realize y'all never got that lover girl episode, right? Yeah, we don't talk about it. Anyway, Miss, I'm trying to be the lover girl, little less DMX. My immediate response was, I don't need a man to give me his last name. A man already gave me his last name. Girl, I got my daddy's last name. Please don't piss me off. A man gave me his last name, okay? Now, if another man, sure, why not? But I don't know. Some of these last names I don't even like anyway. So even if we do get to where we going, you want to pry my last name out my hands. So there's that. And we discussed last week that I might be the problem. And you have some nerve being the damn problem when you out here with no hair. I'm actually going to probably try this weekend to mold my pixie cut because I have a few events coming up and I get tired of wearing that wig. That wig is tired. I'm probably just going to order the same wig again because it was a really good wig or it is a really good wig, but it has its limits. it has its limits. And I ordered another wig that's not the same wig because I tried to get spicy with a reddish brown and it looked like a synthetica. I said, "Oh, Icarus, you just flew too close to the sun, sis. Icarus, you tried. Stick to the rivers and lakes that you're used to." I'm not even used to the wig. That's why I try to get crazy. I said, "See, I tried something new and it worked. I'm gonna try something new again." It didn't work this time. Maybe we take the phone from in between our legs and actually read our notes. But yeah, I'm glad I got that off my chest. Oh, why would I ever go on a tangent and not tell you guys this? Did you see the save the date? I know we've been talking about it on the podcast for weeks that another panel's coming up, another panel's coming up. So be it for me to be hosting another panel, and I haven't even given you the visuals from the last one. I am a chaos agent at this point. And okay, excuses, excuses. We're going to name this part of the podcast excuses. We've talked about this. Y'all know I work. I work a lot. And sometimes that work my nerves. And then when I get home, I know I should have some reserve for the things I need to do, like writing the book. I know. Take a shot every time I talk about writing the book and doing all the marketing and finally meeting with the designer for the website. I have so many things I'm supposed to be doing. Doing the best I can with what I got. I'm trying to tell y'all for real. So yeah, so be it for there to be a second panel and y'all don't have the visuals from the last one. But here's the haps. I think this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do some marketing for the second panel and probably sprinkle a little bit of the visuals from the last panel so people can know what to expect. But I think I'm just gonna plan for when the website is finally updated. Hopefully I have 2 to 3 extra teaspoons of hair at that point. I could braid this. That had nothing to do with nothing. I just wanted to tell you my plan with that. But anyway, once the website is updated, I can start putting the visuals and I'll finally, hopefully, be able to write consistently again. I mean, technically, I can write consistently right now. Like having the website has nothing to do with your writing fingers, sis. But those are my excuses, and that's where I'm at. But all that to say, did you see the save the date? If you haven't seen the save the date, I will put it, I don't know, let's say right here. Raise the roof. Sherelle, please. Please. I will put it right here. Here. So the next panel is April 25th. I'm so excited. It is a morning panel. So I do these events in the morning because if you're anything like me, which I'm learning that people are not, but here we are, I like things to make sense. Like get it nice and early in the morning, not early, like it's not 8 a.m., it's not breakfast, but at a decent hour so that you can have the rest of your day. Like if you have a concert to go to, you have a dinner to go to, you want to go out, get your afternoon and your evening going, my panel's not going to hold you up. And then people tried to convince me to do it after work. If you're anything like me, and that should have been the name of the podcast episode, if you're anything like me, baby, you invite me to something after work, there's a chance I'm not coming. Even if I RSVP, and I hate to do that to people because I know people do a lot and put a lot into doing these events, but they be draining me, child. I be drained. And sometimes things come up, or sometimes I end up in a meeting. There's just too many variables for things to be happening during the work week. I know it is hard for people to get to places during the work week. And the whole thing about the community speaker series is to have something that's accessible to people to share their voice, be in community, and learn amongst each other. So I try to keep that as close to that original concept as possible. So so hence, that's why it's the time it is. That's why it's the day of the week it is. I cannot tell if my cat just jumped into the frame, but if she did, that would be like her because she just thinks that she's the star of the show. And honestly, she is. When we be taking photos together, she be eating me up. She be eating me up, especially with this young man hairdo. She really be eating me up. And you know what's so funny? Oh, a tangent gonna find me every time. A tangent gonna find me every single time. What is so funny is that I cut all my hair off because I'm like, okay, there's heat damage there. And although I don't wear my hair curly and I thought I wouldn't care, seeing my curls be not themselves, I just couldn't deal with that. So I said, you know what? You wanted to cut it off anyway, cut it off. Let's do a thing. And ever since I cut it off, I haven't stopped talking about me cutting my hair off. 40 days and 40 nights, I tell you, I'm going to talk about something. But anyway, back to the point, back to the main road. The event is on April 25th. It is from 11:30 to 1:30. And if you can make it, I would be so excited to have you there. I will share the RSVP link in the coming weeks. I am moving kind of slow because let's listen here, sis. It's giving you have a month and a half. Get your life together. People need to know where they're going. But I sent the save the date out. I sent the save the date. So people have that. The thing, honestly, if I'm honestly speaking, and I will, that has been taking so long is the fact that these venues really make you fight for your life, like small venues. I asked a straightforward question and they're like, well, in order to do this, you need to do that without even asking me, could I do it? They just assume that I can't. Why are you assuming X, Y, and Z about me? And then I tried to have it in spaces that are community spaces where people can patronize. That's the word, right? Patronize, patronize. Oh, that English degree really be whooping on you, huh? The establishment and hopefully I'm really really big on books and really big on reading. I know I get on here when people piss me off, I get to being like, read a book. But in all honesty, I've always loved reading, I've always loved books. And my initial thought, and I can't remember if I shared this in a previous episode, was to have it in a Boston Public Library. But they have their own rules of like, yeah, you can reserve a space, but if the city or if anybody or any organization that's above you, depending on their tier, decides they need the space, we will bump your event. And the control freak in me can't be dealing with stuff like that. If I reserve something, I reserve it. So my friend helped me find the space that we had at the last time. That's a great space. So I booked them early enough for this date to ensure that we got it. Actually, hold that thought. Let me check to make sure. I checked this the other day, but for some reason, my anxiety getting me today. So let's check it together. Come on, class. Oh, I gotta go out of my notes to do that. I'm sure I did. Ooh, ooh, okay. Hold your horses. Look, I already have it in my search function, which means that I probably searched it before. Okay. Yeah. So I booked the same venue just as like a safety net because I know what the venue looks like now. I know how I might set it up. I definitely would change the orientation. I have thoughts, but let's, be transparent. These panels are not cheap to put on between the videography, the food, the gifts, like it it's not cheap. So my hope was to at least have it at a venue, although I would have had to pay for it, to at least recoup some of the cost of just putting it on. And I could pay, like, have tickets be like $20. Another mentor of mine was like, yeah, charge. And I was like, okay, I'll do something like 15 to $20. These venues have been taking me through there, take me through there, take me through there. Like, no, don't take me through there. I don't want to go through there. So all that to say, these venues really have been making me tussle, and I just don't understand. I didn't went off on a tangent, but that is why things have just been a little bit slower. I've been trying to pin down that information so that I can give it to the panelists so that I can put it on the actual information for the marketing. But we're here, baby. We doing the best we can with what we got. We doing the best we can with what we got, baby. That's what we're doing. So if you're in Boston, even if you're not in Boston, you plan on coming to Boston because Boston's kind of a nice place with spring, summer, fall, like Sheree's joggers. I tried to say that seriously and move on, and that's just not how that went. But if you are visiting Boston, if you'll be in Boston that weekend, I will be more than happy to have you. I love kind of doing these events. I talked about it in last week's podcast episode is that, I do the podcast on camera for a number of reasons, just to enter kind of a new market, but it also gives me the ability to think about my face, to think about how I'm presenting myself. I realize I talk really, really fast, not necessarily on the podcast, but in my day to day life, I talk fast. And it gives me the time, the space, and the ability to remind myself to slow down, to watch my tongue, because I also slip in and out of accents just just based on my background. We talked about my background is a long time ago. Go watch some other episodes if you want to know what that is. But so my tongue gets a little tired sometimes. Like I go from one accent to the next, one dialect to the next, and don't let me get excited about a topic, it get crazy. And this allows me to take a beat, to remember that I'm a public speaker, although I'm only, not, I shouldn't say only, I'm speaking to all of you guys, all 5 of my listeners that listen every week. But although I'm speaking directly to a camera, I still have to be cognizant of my face, cognizant of my body, recognize where the mic is. Like today, I'm holding the mic. You see that hand hasn't moved. You, even when I adjusted the mic, you see that hand didn't move. Go back and look. And just kind of what was exercising that muscle, honing that skill, ensuring that I have it because it's something that is important to me. And I want it to be something that's comfortable because if it's comfortable to me, hopefully it'll be welcoming to the listener, welcoming to the viewer, and you feel like this is somewhere that you want to be. Because let's be honest, my podcast early on, and I looked at it early, and it says I've been doing this for 5 years, and we know I took time off, so it hasn't been a true 5 years. But 5 years ago, I decided I was going to do something, and I did it, and then I picked it back up when I thought that it fit what I had going on again. So I am proud of that. I am super, super, super proud of that. You know what I'm not proud of? The fact that I lost whatever thought happened before that. I was going to say something, and now I can't. Oh, I do remember. Honestly, my podcast in the beginning when I started, I was like, okay, it's going to be, I'm a communications person, I'm a consultant. We talk around best practices and communications and marketing, even when it's not flashy. We talk a little bit about relationships, we talk a little bit about life, and that's what it is. And it has really evolved because I always say, I'm just random. I'm a random person, but I'm not a monolith. Like I don't have one experience. I don't have one thing that's going on. So of course, as my world expands and as different things are happening, I get up here and I want to talk about them. And I've explained this online on my social, I've explained this in my writing, I've explained this on this podcast, is that I have no qualms sharing my personal experiences because one, once I share them, I probably already worked through them, so I'm not working through them on camera or on the mic, but I have no issue sharing my personal experiences or just fun little things that are happening because I know somebody else out there is going through something. And we get so stuck in the marketability of it all or who's watching us or I'm a brand, I'm a brand, I'm a brand, I'm a brand. Let's not get that wrong. But you're trying to put on the vapors and for who? People going through the same things and you're afraid to say it out loud or on camera because somebody's watching you who's afraid to say boo on camera. Baby, let them have that. Do what works for you. Do you have to be in my face, rain cakes? Jeez Louise. Yeah, turn around. My cat is there. If you can't see it on camera, she is there. And I'm not going to take that out because y'all need to know that she be harassing me in real life. Oh, I took my ring off. Well, anyway, child. Anyway, what is next up? Oh, we're still on the same topic. So the second panel, April 25th, 11:30 to 1:30. You know what's crazy about that? I did that because this is just something I wanted to do out of the love of it. And now this month, and it's coming up fair show, I created space to create space for other people to share their expertise, to share their voice, because I'm having conversations with these fascinating people, men and women, who are doing these fascinating things. And we don't get to hear about it or experience it, or not enough people do. So shining light on the greatness in other people was perfectly fine for me. I also wanted to create space for myself. I knew that I wanted to get out there, go back into talking and being on panels and things of that nature. So I created that space for myself and for other people. Imagine the fact that creating a space for others, creating a space for community is actually creating a space for me because this week, not this girl, you got, I got lost. This month, wait, I will be presenting to a members only group for communicators, for an organization that I'm a part of, speaking about a chat with Shay, speaking about how and why I do it, how it came about, and just why it's important, and hopefully encouraging others to do it in their own space. Like it won't be a chat with Shay, but doing whatever their version of that is to create community across members, because we're nationwide and people can do the same thing. It's like I don't have to hoard an idea because I can't be everywhere, but if I can be the inspiration for other people to build communities amongst themselves and we bring it together and figure out what that looks like. I was more than happy when they asked me to speak on it. I said, baby, I do this. You say that now, but to think before the first panel, I panicked a little bit and I said, who told me I could do this? Why would I think I could do this? Why would I think I couldn't? And to know that not only have I built and created a space, I get to talk about a space, I get to create light for myself, I get to create impact. And if you're wondering, the light series was the first panel, the impact series is the second one. So we're just in this thing, and low key some days I still get a little flustered and I'm like, even with the second panel, with things moving slower than the last one. And also, let's not forget, with the first one, I had Bevy Smith who reposted it, reshared it, and really got a lot of eyes on it. And this time, I'm not gonna reach out to Bevy again. Like she ain't my market, she don't work for me. And I'm like, oh my God, am I going to be able, now that I know the size of the room, am I going to be able to fill up that room? Am I just going to be able? And those jitters don't go away, but I have to trust by God's grace that whoever is supposed to be in that room will be in that room. And they will receive the message that they're supposed to receive. And I will be a conduit for the message. And it will be a safe and welcoming space. And we will have the conversations that we need to have. I was very excited about my first panel. I'm super excited about my second panel because I when I pick speakers, I don't pick them just because I'm like, oh, that's my friend or whatever the case may be. A lot of them are, but I pick people because I see how hard they're working. I see the impact that they have on people around them. I see the impact that they have on me, just being an inspiration, just showing up and being the boss people that they are. That's how I pick people. And when people ask me, like, are you sure you picked the right person, or why did you pick me? I'm like, because you needed to be picked. And I'm just grateful to be able to have a space for you to come and for you to speak and for you to share, and for us to really get into some hooting and hollering and some shenanigans, because I'm going to cut up every single chance I get. Y'all know me. This is about the time that I start checking my camera again. So hold on, hold on. Why do I feel like my body is not in the space it's supposed to be in? Listen, continuity be chasing me and I be running faster. Just like I be running from them 7 pounds and they be running faster. It just every something chasing everybody, but we are still recording as far as I know. And hopefully everything looks good. But what I was gonna say, and then I'm gonna get off the topic of the upcoming panel, is that, you know, nothing is perfect. And some days I have doubt because I am human. But one thing that I'm going to keep doing is trying. And I implore you to also just keep trying, because there's plenty of people with less talent that are doing more than what you're doing, because they're just willing to get up, try, and fail and not worry about what other people are thinking about them. Y'all, who you trying to impress for real? That was for me and you. If somebody's watching you and judging, let them do it. Anyway, so this was actually supposed to be how we started this podcast episode. And I'm glad that this is not how we started the podcast episode now that I'm looking at it. But I'm going to say it so you can be just as cracked up or just as concerned for me as I am. It literally says, Shay, you're scaring the hoes. What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? But also, Shay, you're scaring the hoes. Let me just say this. If anything that I say or do scares a man off, he was, in fact, not the man I was supposed to be with. You think I'm supposed to change up who I am to appear appealing to a man? To a A man? What happens when I do that and he later finds out that I'm full of hijinks and shenanigans? Okay? Little buyer's remorse. By then he'll probably be so in love. But I I just can't do it. I'm sorry, that was a little residual from last week. But what I will say is for me, and I would say for you too, if it's you, those of us who date men, those of us who just date people in general, you have to be who you are, and the partner that is for you will be for you. And that's pretty much how I carry myself, because the amount of anxiety that goes into dating, especially dating now where there's really no mystery, especially like for a person. I mean, I don't, sorry, I don't post chronically online, but I do post, like I post in my stories and I post memes and I post reels and things that kind of just make me laugh. And y'all know that Instagram and them is the feds for real, because everything you like and you repost, everybody on your timeline gonna see. Mind you, I removed so many followers, but still them hundred or so followers still be judging me sometimes. Not the ones who understand my humor, but if it's a man that follows me and he's judging me off of my hijinks and shenanigans, I have to assume that one, he just doesn't really know me that well, and two, he's not interested in getting to know me that well. Because if you're holding my feet to the fire for things that I find funny online or a little joke here or there, because at most I post maybe an hour online, there are 24 hours in a day. I don't know. If it was me, I would be more interested in getting to know the person who's not online, the person who's speaking to me on my phone, than what's posted online. But all that to say, I'm going to be who I'm going to be, and you have to be who you're going to be. Y'all are trying to put on for a partner, and you're miserable because you don't want them to know your little quirks. You don't want them to know your little hijinks and your shenanigans. My hijinks and my shenanigans are my favorite things about myself. Even when I factory reset and I'm like, okay, I got to be an adult. Yeah, baseline hijinks, baseline shenanigans. And I I always tell people this. This little trivia question. If anybody ever asks you about me, which why would a stranger ever ask you about me? But if anybody ever asks you about me, I always say my favorite joke for forever has always been, why is six afraid of seven? Because seven ain't nine. That's how foolish I am. I low key kind of wanted to laugh a little bit there too, but I'm just still. I don't get me wrong. I'm all the things. I'm all the things on the CV, all the things on the resume, all the things on the certificates, all the things on the degrees. Yarn. But my favorite thing about me is my personality, my ability to show up authentically, my ability to show up fully. And if I'm too afraid to show up fully in front of a person that's supposed to be my person, that's not my person. And that's fine too. That may not work for that person, but trying to contort yourself to fit what you think a person will find acceptable, it might work for some people. I know it don't work for me. Baby, if you're gonna be into this, and let me take you through there. Take you through there. Okay? Okay. But oh wait, I know I had a point in my notes because I definitely went off track. Um, yeah, what I wanted to say is if your person doesn't know you, what are we doing? Like, baby, I might go missing in a bookstore for 2 hours on a Saturday. You know what? My man, my person, the person who's supposed to know me is going to know where to look for me, because I will have shared that sometimes I go to the bookstore and get lost. He's going to know, like, oh, all right, it's this day or it's this time. She didn't say she was doing this, but I'm a little concerned. I bet you she's at her favorite bookstore. I bet you she's X, Y, and Z. I bet you she's doing this. He will know where to look for me. And then if I'm not there, call the people. Call my mom and she'll find me. Call the people. But if I don't authentically share with my man, like, hey, sometimes I like to do this or sometimes I like to do that, this man probably on a golf course looking for me because I didn't tell him the truth about my interests. You at a swimming class and that man don't even know you can swim because you too busy trying to be a damsel in distress. Your person should kind of pretty much know you. It shouldn't come too far out the blue. Some things I do come a little bit out of the blue, but it'd be a surprise to me and to that person, whoever my person is. And I want to be clear. Because I do know I post about dating and blah, 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 blah. But factory reset, I think I already told y'all I'm not dating nobody. I'm just cooling my jets, just holding myself over until my outside season happens, which happens in spring for me. I know a lot of y'all talk about summer, but y'all don't know ball for real. Baby, as as soon as warm air hits my tongue, baby, I'm outside. I am outside. As soon as them clocks spring forward, and daylight is a little bit longer, outside seems like the place I want to be. So I'm just saying, I'm just buying my time until I get there. I have factory reset. I ain't dealing with nobody. So when I say my man or this, that, I'm just talking in general. And when I get one, I might still be talking in general until I want to share it. But all that to say, you gotta be real with your person. And also the person has to ask questions about you. I think I kind of went through that too. I had somebody that I was really interested in, and I couldn't tell if they was interested in me, so it caused me a little bit of anxiety. And I said, you know what, this is not the situation for me because it doesn't feel fun. It doesn't feel good. And that's for me. There's somebody else out there who's like, no, I like to drag this out. Girl, not I, said the cat. You're not gonna have me confused, make me feel like you like me on Monday and Thursday. I'm your male person. Everybody gotta find a shoe that fit. And that one wasn't working for me. And y'all know I could walk in a stiletto, so I can do a little discomfort, but baby, we not doing this for too long. All that to say, yeah, I've just factory reset. I've just factory reset. You have to be yourself. You have to be the you that you're comfortable being, because putting on a vapors for too long will get tiring. You will get tired of doing it. You will. I feel like that's just a hard fact. I am not an expert, but not being able to be yourself around a person who's supposed to know you intimately doesn't seem fun. And how do you grow if you're too busy pretending? Anywho, oh, speaking of me knowing ball, I said that 8 minutes ago, but knowing ball, y'all, I think we getting Tatum for tonight's Celtics game. When I wrote this note down, Tatum was on the questionable list, but I think right before I had left that place that I was at, it said that he has been cleared to play tonight. So, woo, give me something good. Take me through there. Take me through. Try. Let me not get my hopes up, though. Let me not get my hopes up about a man, because we know how that be turning out for me. Moving along. On another note, I'm about to do this verbatim, word for word, bar for bar. For the people who follow me on Instagram, I posted a snippet of my notes in my stories because I asked earlier this week, like, hey, I'm recording the podcast. Please let me know topics that you want to discuss. And of course, because I record the gym, not as much because y'all know I've been trying to get back to 5 to 6 times a week. At best, I'm doing 2 to 3. Not the point. Nobody asked me that. But, most people are interested in my gym routine because I guess I be looking like something when I look like something, baby. Okay, please. And so I write down my notes and I write down what comes to my mind. Then I kind of just say what I'm going to say. But I'm going to do this bar for bar because I thought it was funny and I'm going to try not to laugh. And don't judge me because y'all know I'm looking down. So I said, on another note, I know people be asking me about the gym and I appreciate it because y'all think I'm cute. Even with my young man here, do you think I'm cute? Okay, I'll take that. That wasn't in my notes. Anyway, I'm happy to help in any way that I can. But baby, we both we both might need to take the instructions out the trash and read them again, because y'all know how you open something up and you look at the instructions one time and you throw it away like, oh, I got it. You don't got it. We don't got it. We might need to take it out the trash and read them again, because what I will say is I am not mad at my shape. And I'm gonna go off my notes real quick. I'm just gonna say this. Earlier, I was getting dressed, like getting ready for my day. So I had on, my bra and underwear. And where I was standing and how the light was hitting me, my shadow was hitting the wall. So I turned around and saw my shadow. I said, goddamn, Pam. I said, not the little arch in the back. You might be doing something. I might be doing something. I'm so focused on that little 10 pounds I'm trying to get up off my body. I ain't really looking at my body. Back to my notes. Anyway, sometimes I catch my shadow or reflection and be like, yeah, I'd holler at me. I mean, I would holler at me anyway. I like me. We talk about me liking me. That man don't like, Sherelle, you said you wasn't going to do it today. I'm not going to do it today. But also, will I take losing a solid 20 pounds? Yes. Yes, I will. I feel like if I lose a solid 20, I will feel better. Carry the one. Yeah, I'm good with a solid 20. We can do 25, but y'all know I get real bobblehead territory at numbers, at certain numbers. But anyway, and don't date a man that likes a little bit of meat on your bones because he will usher you right into your demise. You'll think because he's folding you up like a lawn chair, everything is cool. It's not. It's not, and it wasn't. It wasn't. I mean, let me get so big. And this is not fat phobia. I want you to be comfortable at whatever size you're at and whatever skin you're in. I'm just saying, as far as me and my household, we was getting a little, we was getting a little too big. Okay, I was working out and that weight wasn't going anywhere. I am off the nose. Y'all can tell me I'm off the nose because I look right up. Anyway, let me just say, I'm not listening to y'all. You look good, warriors. You look good the way you are, warriors, because of y'all. Y'all was the reason, not me. Not me and my other ailments and all my things that got me there. Y'all was the reason I was 238. So hush. Hush your mouth. Anyway, but as far as the gym, I mean, I know that this probably isn't popular, but I've been doing the same program basically since 2018. I pull some moves in, wait, no, pull some moves out, put some moves in, and I kind of do what works for me. I do them consistently. I've gotten better about mobility. I've gotten better about that's a lie. That's a lie before I even say it. I do okay with cardio. I was gonna say I've gotten better with cardio. That is a lie. I actually was better with cardio before. I could be on the Stairmaster 35 to 40 minutes before. The Stairmaster gonna get 15 to 17 minutes out of me. 20 if I'm feeling good. But that's essentially what I do. I try to stay consistent. I think I've said this before. You should check in with your healthcare provider to see what your baseline is, if you have anything like iron deficiencies, anemia, anything like that that maybe contribute hormone imbalances, insulin resistance, or anything that can contribute to it being difficult to lose weight or anything of that nature because we're all dealing with different things. So I can't speak to your body type. Y'all all know that I respect expertise and I know that there are people who study this. I have not studied this. I have just focus on being strong, lifting heavy. My nutrition could be better and being consistent in the gym. So I have a whole check-in partner. I talked about having a check-in partner. If you need a check-in partner, you can check in with me at Shay Iconic. That means I would probably have to let you follow me if you don't follow me now, but it's cool. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Maybe I'll do a little check-in group, but that's basically the gym for me. I try to lift heavy. I don't lift as heavy as I can because I've talked about not having a Sparta before, but I'll work on that. I've been better about having my trainer come over when I want to lift a little bit heavier, if I want to try something different. That's basically the gym for me. I don't know. There weren't any real questions. I don't know what else anybody wants to know, but y'all know where to find me. I think. I think. Hush, baby, wanna let you know. Can I say that the title of the podcast all week has been Factory Reset? I even said in that post, I was like, oh, tell me about topics that you want to talk about. The title of the podcast is Factory Reset. I'm driving home today, and because, oh, sorry, always some chaos with me. I'm driving home today, and because there is a portion of this podcast called Hush, and I started listening to LL Cool J's Hush, I said, oh, the podcast episode the podcast episode should be titled Hush. I'm proud of myself for sticking to my guns because why do you want to be random so bad all the time? Girl, that's why that man don't like you. That's why that man don't like you. Anyway, what was I gonna say? Speaking of men, because I was speaking of men under my breath, I want to say this. I want to say this somewhere. I want to say this here, and I didn't say it on my social media. It is actually quite insane to email someone after they've blocked you on everything else. I feel like that action of blocking is an indication that maybe, just maybe, perhaps they don't want to talk to you anymore. It's not a call to action for you to try harder, to disrespect their boundaries. You have clearly done something where that person doesn't want to speak to you. And you know what's crazy to me is I thought that maybe that was a unique experience for me, but it's not, because Instagram is the feds. A reel popped up with a girl saying like, "Oh, you know you really got someone when a man will find a way to email you." Not as all experiencing the same simulation. That irritated me. To see that email in my junk folder really irritated me, because why would you do that? I've been freed and I will stay free. Do not email me again. Don't do it. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, moving on. Oh, we got to the hush, baby. I'll let you know this is how I'm gonna go. Why it was going to be named Hush and why this segment is called Hush. I thought about this earlier. I was in a meeting with somebody and I'm talking to the person so assuredly, like, yeah, this happens this way, and this is how this is perceived, and this is how this goes, and people know this because we say this, and this is clear, 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 and this, just, blah, blah, just bumping my gums. And the person let me speak, and then, they waited, which I appreciated. I really respect this person. They were like, I agree with most of what you're saying. I do agree with, but I don't think we're doing X, Y, and Z to the level that you think we're doing it. Because when I'm out somewhere experiencing X, Y, and Z, people are not talking about X, Y, and Z the way that you think they are. And I shut up. I sat there and I listened, and they're like, I think if we do this coupled with what you're saying about that, that we can get there. And it made me think, because when I talked about it, I'm like, based on my research, I'm so in the work, I'm doing this work, this is the goal, this is what we're doing. And I know that we are doing these intentional action steps, intentional items. And this just makes sense that this is what we're doing. Like, people know that this is what we're doing. And a person said, "Hey, I think you have a blind spot. I think that maybe you don't know that because you're not in this area or you're not experiencing this, you don't understand that there are people that are not seeing what you're talking about." And it made me think that, I often say feelings are valid, but feelings aren't always real. It's not always the truth. It is a perspective. It is a perception of things, but it's not necessarily the whole truth of the matter of how something's going. And even with me researching and knowing the pathway and following the steps and understanding foundationally how something's supposed to be happening, that doesn't mean that I don't have blind spots. And I think that's true for a lot of us. But if we would take the time and the opportunity to realize the power of shutting the F up, um, and I say this as a chatty girl, as a communications person, and so much more, there's growth in being quiet and leaving space for someone else's perspective. There's growth in understanding. And I think that some of us know this, but we often forget it because we get caught up in our day to day and in our lives and what we're trying to accomplish and what we're trying to do. But there's growth in understanding that your thoughts don't have to be the primary thoughts, that you can listen and learn. Hush, baby, don't talk too much. Yeah. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. I know y'all didn't like that, huh? I'm chatty patty for real. Not the way that Dame Dash was saying it, but I get real chatty. You can tell because at the top of the episode, I was intentionally speaking slower. I had my little broadcast, not broadcast voice, because I didn't do broadcast journalism, but I had my host voice on and I was speaking a certain way. But now that I've relaxed and I put down the cards, I've gotten up a few times, I've gone off script, I've gotten comfortable, I've gotten chatty. But even as a chatty person, I think the best way to learn besides reading a book and talking to people who read books is to listen to those around you, take experiences in, and understand that your worldview is not the only view. That's how we expand ourselves. That's how we expand our character and our experiences and all those things is by being in community. All right. This is my last point, and then we can get on up out of here, and I can go watch and see if Tatum won't be in the game, child. Um, I wanted to say this because last week I talked about the BAFTAs, and I really kind of just talked from my point of view, and I pretty much knew it happened at a high level, but I didn't go deep into it to see the aftermath to understand a little bit more. I understood some things, but I hadn't expected to talk about it, so I didn't really prep myself to talk about it. So I'm going to read this. I try my best to research topics before I talk about them, and although I'm typically given my opinion, I think a well informed opinion is necessary because otherwise I'm just adding junk into all of the noise. All that to say, I don't think that I've had the time to take a beat or look into some things deeper before I added my input the last few weeks on the podcast. And I just told you what I was talking about. And if I don't have the time to really dig into a subject, I think it is necessary for me to hush, to practice my hush. Because I think oftentimes when we're not practicing our hush and we're just adding to the noise, sometimes we're adding to misinformation and not intentionally, but we're adding to the piecemeal to a conversation that we are not accurately describing what happened. So I just feel like sometimes if I'm not fully informed or well informed enough on a subject, that it is okay to not give my opinion. And I feel like I practice that, but there have been a few times where I've been passionate about something and I've spoken about it from high level, but there was way more to the story. I don't give the BAFTA thing too much credit, but I think that I could have explained more around it or given more context around it. But also, the same way that I could research, if I mention something and you want more information, I will always encourage you to research. Do your own research. That's what I learned when I was in school before is like, yeah, somebody can tell you an exciting story, somebody can tell you information that may seem accurate and whole, but it's always your job to do your full research for you to go check their sources and go check the sources of that source to ensure that you have a full picture. But I also want to make sure that I am not just adding fluff into the air. Sometimes I will. Sometimes I will. But case in point, that is why it is easier to talk about the relationship stuff because they are my experiences, like the dating or the liking a boy or liking a man, because I'm a grown woman and you got to be careful today, Chad. But, liking somebody and talking through that or talking about communication strategy or talking about social or talking about culture, those things I have a grasp on. Those things are the things that make sense to me. And those things make sense to me, and I'm sharing these things, and unfortunately sometimes they're personal experience or just experiences that I've heard of, but I've lived in them, I've heard them, I've experienced them, and I think that has lent to the shift a little bit because more so I was talking about culture and this, that, and the third, and now I kind of just lean into the things that are timeless. I can, for the most part, besides things like the Lover Girl episodes, or if we have a legend who passes, rest in peace to Jesse Jackson, then oftentimes I can put up these episodes at any point because they don't have a time limit on them because they're just experiences and I'm just sharing experiences for us to be within community with each other. So I'm sure that I will continue to lean that way, but there will be cultural things that I talk about because I'm in the culture and they're big moments. And I just want to remind myself, and you can hold me accountable too, but respectfully, because don't make me cut you out, to remind myself to get the larger story, to get more details. And if I don't have the time to do that, to maybe think twice about speaking on it or just waiting to speak on it. I think it's okay to practice my hush and practice patience and practice waiting. I feel like we did it, guys. Without looking at the time, I feel like we finally have a long video episode. And you know why we do? Because I actually took the time to plan and didn't have haphazard notes. So I don't want to get too crazy and assume that we did a long episode, but it feels like a longer episode. and we will see once the recording is over. Anyway, as always, if you have been here since the beginning of the podcast when it had a different title, I appreciate you. If you just kind of came across it and you're like, hey, let me see this kooky crazy lady looking like a young man, I also appreciate you. If you one of the men I used to talk to and you watching this. Anyway, yeah. So I appreciate you spending time with me. When you spend the time with me, I appreciate the ones of you who let me know your feedbacks, let me know that you like the video or whatever the case may be. And we will get to an accurate camera at some point. Anyway, until next time, let's chat.